Empress Daaga was vital to China's historic monumental change during the Qin Dynasty. This dynasty was led by the Manchu people, the last imperial dynasty in China. Si became a powerful player within the walls of the Forbidden City. This petite-framed, demure woman rose to power and control with the determination and faith of a tiny mustard seed. Si, who was surprisingly just a low-ranking concubine to China's emperor, Shi Yangfeng, eventually gave birth to a son who later succeeded his father at the tender age of 5. Si's opportunity to taste power was carefully crafted behind China's finest silk curtains. Let's take a dive back into China's Qin Dynasty to discover one of the most important women of China's history, Daaga Si. Please excuse me for the mispronunciation of the names in this biography. I made my best attempt, so with that being said, let's get right into it. Jin of the Yihe Nara, better known as Empress Daaga, Si later on was born on November 29, 1835. She was born to her mother, Lady Fuka, and her father, Wei Zhong. Si was born on the 10th lunar month of the 15th year of the current empress' rule. At the age of 17, after her father's passing, she left her mother's home to start her journey to become a new residence of the luxurious palace located at the Forbidden City. Every 3 years, there is a mandatory ceremony called Imperial Concubine Selection, held within the imperial court. Naturally, she was nervous and stressed about the unexpected reception from the emperor, Shi Yangfeng, who now became her husband. Not to mention the cold welcome from the current lady courtesans within his harem. Henceforth, Si ranked 6th place consort, noble lady Lan. Now 2 years as the new companion to Emperor Shi Yangfeng in 1854, Si was elevated to ranking 5th consort, as well as a new title, Concubine Yi. In 1855, Si became pregnant and a year later gave birth to her only son named Si, which happens to be the emperor's first and only surviving son. After giving birth to the emperor's future heir, Si was elevated once again, now to 4th rank of consorts, Consort Yi. By the time her son, Si reached his first birthday, Si was elevated to the 3rd consort, noble consort Yi. Si, having some education prior to entering the Forbidden City, made her instrumental to the court, knowing the important skills of reading Chinese and possessing a fine art of writing Chinese. She was the only consort to do so. This fortune awarded her the opportunity to become the main scribe to Emperor Shi Yangfeng. The responsibility of scribing allowed Si closer access to the emperor, which over time granted her his respect and admiration. She was given the honor of reading the palace memorials, thereupon being the first consort to have full knowledge of his instructions for his future will. Equally important, Si found herself in powerful spaces among the officials within the Forbidden City. She observed her environment and became well-informed as well as knowledgeable with state and government affairs. The topic of conversation regarding politics during that time amongst the Qin Dynasty officials had to do with how aggressive and fast-acting the British Empire moved in on seizing additional ports. Because the Chinese opium plant was a lucrative commodity to the Brits, this aggression later caused the Opium Wars. Unfortunately, in the year 1860, Cixi, her young son, and husband Emperor Si fled Beijing due to the British and French army attacks on the city. Months of exile from Beijing have taken a toll on Emperor Si, who was now in his mid-30s. He now experienced debilitating depression, alcohol, and drug addiction. The emperor was shell-shocked and heartbroken at what he'd experienced. He refused to return back to Beijing, even after learning the British were long gone. A year later, in 1861, self-imposed exile and failing health, Si passed away. Before Si passing, he appointed his only son, 5-year-old Zaichuan, as his successor. The only caveat to this is, because of his son's young tender age, the emperor made sure he assigned his most esteemed ministers, referred to as the 8 regent ministers. Cixi's son now sits on the throne as the new emperor, nevertheless placed in the care of the 8 important men who never left the boy's side. This later would cause problems and concern for Cixi. The future of the dynasty lay solely in the hands of the 8 supervisors. However, this did not deter her from orchestrating a dangerous plan. In essence, Cixi spent years subtly initiating ideas to the father emperor, Si. She also secretly listened to the emperor's conversation with heads of states within the imperial walls. Notably, Cixi rose to the highest level as consort in the Forbidden City. The other consorts could only dream of this role as a woman. She wrote, prepared, and arranged important documents for the emperor, therefore granting her inside information and knowledge regarding vital news related to the empire, both present and future. She knew in her thoughts she could govern and run the dynasty to great heights. But how? Cixi, now officially given the title Empress Daaga Cixi after her husband, senior emperor Si passing, as well as the emperor's other wife, which was now referred to as Empress Daaga Xian. The special title Daaga is given to the mother or widow of the emperor in Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Vietnamese culture. Now let's continue. Both women were to be in charge of being nurturing figures to the future emperor. However, both women arranged special meetings inside the imperial audience room and managed a coup d'etat and strategized to permanently get rid of the 8 men in charge of supervising the young emperor. Cixi and Xian planned to align themselves with powerful authorities within the imperial household. Therefore, she appointed her late husband's brother, Prince Gong, to head the Grand Council and military. The title Empress Daaga, given to both women, Xian and Cixi, by the late emperor, were never to be involved in political affairs and governance of the empire. Obviously, the current emperor was just a child, so the women arranged an ally of co-reigning as the title Empress Daaga, which later gained them powers, overthrowing the 8 regents assigned by their late husband, the emperor. Immediately, the 2 women had all 8 regents eliminated. Cixi, now finally feeling the gush of power, felt there should be real change regarding China and Britain's future partnership in regards to trade. Cixi's thoughts about doing business with the Brits were not a shared sentiment throughout the empire. Nonetheless, she believed that China should not resist the West because the empire would benefit from the policies in place currently. Cix's vision was to reform China in its policies. Once Cixi organized her new staff within the imperial circles, she'd given two of her brother-in-laws authoritative positions. She advised one of them, Prince Gong, to enter into politics so he could become the principal aide to her son, now the emperor. Cixi and Sion didn't often see eye to eye, so Cixi took the posture to run solo as Empress Daaga. Cixi's new political cabinet also included an American called Anson Burlingame, who was President Abraham Lincoln's first minister. In fact, after his service to President Lincoln was completed, Cixi offered him employment as China's ambassador to the West. In addition, she hired more Americans, British, and French delegation deputies and secretaries to travel throughout the West on behalf of China. It was important to Cixi that she implemented diplomacy with the West. During those days, America, Britain, and France created a global campaign against the East. They claimed China's culture was backwards and barbaric. So to undo those claims, Westerner officials were sent to basically declare that China has changed and is open to foreigners. Furthermore, there were a few reforms placed into policy because of China's interest in exploring more modern devices and inventions like the telegraph, telephones, and electricity. Another key point of interest was the modern railways, navy, and army. Eventually, Cixi sent 120 male elementary-age children to America to become educated and trained in the comprehensive and systematic way of the West. The program was called the School of Combined Learning, which was launched in the year 1862. Welcome to the Thought Cafe. Let's enjoy some tea. But in the meantime, let's discuss. Cixi sent over 100 young boys to the West to be educated at the most prestigious schools in the West and on to colleges like Yale, Cambridge, and Harvard University. The goal was for these young boys, who later would return to China as men, become China's template for China's future youth. Fast forward today, our thoughts on how the Chinese educational mission program improved China today. Was this just an opportunity to improve China's future, or also a strategic plan to study their future rival? Think about it. I hope you're enjoying this story. Let's continue. In Chinese tradition, the Qin Empire never allowed women to engage in political affairs. However, Cixi managed to ignore the laws and assume the role of regency. Cixi and Sion, the two Empress Daagas, occasionally clashed over having different ideas. However, there was one thing they could successfully agree on doing together. While Chao Emperor Zaichuan was sitting on the throne, they sat in back of the throne incognito, behind silk curtains. Cixi was the primary brainchild to this idea. She would listen to state officials and later give instructions from behind closed doors to her chosen cabinet. Cixi quietly ruled the dynasty from behind the delicate golden curtains. Sooner or later, Cixi would have to relinquish her influence on her son, the young emperor, once he reached the age of 16. The tradition in China is that at the age of 16, the emperor is now considered a man and needs no feminine influences or interferences. With Emperor Zaichuan's 16th birthday around the corner, now, what should Cixi do? Thank you for tuning in to part 1 of Empress Daaga, Cersei's story. Because of so many different moving parts and players in this video, I took as much time needed to do proficient research. I always say there is never enough research to get it just right. So what are your thoughts on Cersei's rise to power as a woman in a strictly patriarchal society? Pretty bold, huh? And today's side note. Part 2 will be uploaded soon. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell below. Like always, because everyone has a story. Ciao.